for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video and beautiful landscape with me here today. I'm on top of this mountain cliff, and I think it's almost, if it's not already 2 weeks since I've rooted myself. I've anchored myself back in this space. So this is when I'm recording it, and I was called here today. And the moment I came here today, I felt the Aurea's wind. That's how I call it, the spirit wind, because as you know, our turbulent energetics have been quite intense of the late, and I've been in this portal place for, as you know, 7 years, and I was able to, through my own spirit work and integration, discern between these different waves and pulsations of energy and these energetic exchanges between light and dark, and how it affects our planetary states of reality, like different subtleties of reality, different levels of subtle energetics. And so there's a certain specific wind, very much discerning. You can easily tap into it, and I call it the spirit wind. And it's like it goes in a spiral formation. It literally blows in a different way, and it's cold, but it's not as cold as usual north winds and the winds that sometimes feel very dark and evil, very intense in their energy, and they're not pleasant, because the moment you step outside, you often feel that the energy is not pleasant. So there is a slight danger that this wind's intensity might tip over my camera though, so I am risking this today, but I really wanted to record in this beautiful energy. And I'm sitting on top of this cliff. There's this huge mountain valley down below, and I wish you could see the scene. Maybe I can add it on at the end of the video, record a little scenery for you, because it's just amazing. And so I was so excited, because sometimes I feel these calls of spirit and they just tell me go here, go there, or I will just feel it inside. So the moment I came here today, I realized, wait a minute, it's exactly 2 weeks since I started receiving these messages here and what I need to do. And the moment I started coming here on this cliff, this wind started to intensify, and I was just sitting here anchoring the energy for a while, and now I'm back on track recording the video. So what I want to talk about today is several things in a quick nutshell, because there's much more going on Patreon again. So Patreon is still the platform that I'm choosing to share my not just information and informational infusion in the content, but to share within a space of a specific group that's a safe space for people who actually know what I'm talking about, or are interested to know what this higher spiritual work is about, and interested in joining their own, engaging in their own deeper components of life, in their own spirit work. So I'm really excited to announce today that my Patreon work is back on track, although I'm still in the same position like in the last time that I've created these recordings, and I mentioned that I found someone who let me upload this in their own home. And you know, it's quite honorable when someone invites you in their home and allows you in that space. So they told me I can continuously do that, although you know, I'm not the kind of person that likes to ask too much of too many people, but if it does serve a higher purpose and intention, it means I'm aligned with that idea. So I wanted to just bring this through as a capacity, but also thanking those beautiful, humble, amazing people here who've given me the chance to share the videos when I myself am without internet. The solution I found temporarily on Patreon is something I've shared in the updates. There's a community section here on YouTube as well, which you can see and read short messages that I can post when I can do videos. So via these updates, I've recently announced that I've managed to resume temporarily also my Patreon work via using my phone internet. Actually, it's not the best, and my phone keeps crashing down too a lot. But I'm going to use this option until I can just flow with the work steadily. And in the meantime, I'm also preparing the course on light body intelligence, life force translation, in order for us to achieve full body illumination, which is still the ultimate goal for me on my path. It remains this highest desire of mine. And as I was doing these techniques that I was shown myself, more and more Spirit told me, well, at a certain point you don't need a technique anymore, just allow spirit to do the rest. So it's about the deepest aspect of trusting Spirit to work through us as these conscious vessels. And when I'm in the zone, when I'm in the light body intelligence, and when Spirit speaks through me and they're just showing me the dynamics, and I'm writing it down, so I'm anchoring, meditating, writing it down. So as I've shared with you before, I've channeled like pages and pages and piles of paper used in my notebook. So I'm finally getting myself ready to put it all in a one combined format, because I was already doing this work early in the spring this year, accessing light body intelligence, and I was shown specific accessing points and techniques for you to get starter up for yourself. And it's not always the easiest. Sometimes I will notice there's a lot of distraction, and sometimes resistance to this process. So it's very intense, and it's almost like our bodies would feel that they get in that flow of resistance. So it's more advanced work, and it does require a lot of preparation. So I figured I'm going to do this bridging gap in between on Patreon. So I'm going to do these video live streams that are actually unlisted videos that only my Patreon audience can see. So if you want to join the group, it's called illumined Ascension. The link is also on YouTube. All of the links are shared, as well as those of you who just want to contribute to the work. There's also a donation link, but please do use the direct PayPal pay me link, because it's most easy way for us to have that exchange. So as you can see, it's quite challenging for me to record a video here today because it's so windy, and my camera keeps dropping down, and it is what it is. So I want to talk about today's topic, which is, recently I've channeled this message through Spirit about our current world, the state of circumstances as they appear to be, and the bigger picture behind everything. Because my gift of life, has always been the way I connect to Spirit. Not so much the information I receive, but the way I connect, the way Spirit is an intrinsic part of my life, the way it's just hereditary for me, and the way Spirit flows through my essence, my body, my form. And although my path, as a pillar of creation and a tantrika being, has been tremendously challenging as a light being in physical human form, but think of it like that. I was thinking about it today. I do have also one of the best jobs on the planet at this time. I get to be in these beautiful spaces. I mean, the weather is mostly not like it is today. There had to be a lot of the clearing because, as you know, they still keep on spraying our skies. A lot of people perceive this as one of the final strokes of the dark, like the resistance is pushing back heavily, and there's days when we're super excited, and there's days when we kind of drop down in energy. So recently I've covered all of these topics on Patreon. I've talked about this, how to handle it, how to perceive it, how to manage and maintain ourselves during these phases of life that we're walking through at this time. But the message I received through Spirit today was just so beautifully profound in its purity, in its innocent capacity to strike the chord of our heart, the way the Divine Mother addresses all of us. And basically, this came as a result of me speaking to someone one day, and we're talking about the current state of affairs and this quarantine and how it's affecting people. As you know, in my life, I'm not noticing much difference because I already lived as a hermit 7 years. I did not socialize, nor did I want to. I didn't have any interest to. I only had the interest of serving and doing my spirit work. And so as we began to speak, there was the sharing about how this is opening the pathways of many people to finally start really connecting with their soul and their soul essence, and how it's awakening their gifts. But there was something in that moment, in an instance within me, that was ignited. And I had this vision how all of these people being pushed into extreme circumstances and conditions of life, something triggered within them, and how this was chosen as a plan, and how, when you kind of can't create in the external and with the external tools, you access the more vertical plane of reality, which in truth, it's not a separate thing. And yet it feels like at this time we're building a collective pool of so-called new dreamers that are accessing these new codes received from Spirit. In the previous important update, I've shared with you this bigger perspective of the Spirit's work and how there was a change in the life force of Spirit and how this affected all levels of density and all realms of life. And a lot of us being the carrier pigeons or the divine messengers for this process, informing others about this process so they can begin the work of this collective dreaming. So when I received this message today, it was primarily about how Spirit wants us now to step into our new role as divine dreamers. So I'm not going to go into the depth of the entire message because it's already out there on Patreon for all those of you who wish to join. This way you get a lot of benefits from receiving these higher updates and being more aware of the bigger plan, because that's the way Spirit speaks to me in the grand design level, grand orchestration of life, because my Spirit team is just very close to Spirit, and we kind of translate its natural state of being and its impulses, the impulses given to us through life force currents. And it's not a special ability, it's just that we're very close to Spirit in that way, and that's how I receive. So that goes for your benefit, and not just educating yourself, because this is not at the mental level, it's not as much as the informational level, it's not knowledge based, but it's based on the perspective of the world and Spirit and how it affects our world and form at the level of those souls who are ascending souls and are partaking in this grand experiment of life, right? So Spirit in the message stressed out the importance that we did not necessarily come here to change the old world. And a lot of you perhaps have felt that some of the people who've called themselves indigos or influencers in a way that they were altering the systems from within, changing them in a way through their perception, but they did not really change them. They were helping the codes of the old to sort of make way, like they would weaken them. They would help to weaken them so they could eventually, when there's enough pressure built, something gets weakened and it loosens the pressure of that resistance. And that's what a specific group of beings came here to do. The next wave, as you know, came here to create a bridge between the old and the new. And then that new group, which is also then you joining your group as the previous group, because eventually even that work is complete. You no longer need to do it. And then you can join at any time, at any rate of your capacity of the soul, when you feel that call, the next wave. Because this is how this collective dreaming part is about. It's hitting us at these wave levels. So when we each complete the work on one level, then we jump into the next one, so on and so forth. And many levels we've been calling this the indigo, the crystal children, and then the new rainbow children, and these waves. But it's much deeper than just having those aspects or attributes, which are again very firmly fixed. Our reality, as you know, is not fixed. We do have specific missions and our mission standards in a way, but it's still a very fluid reality. We're free in this reality once we truly ascend into the domain of our integral spirit. But the process, what Spirit wanted to get closer to us, is how what we're doing is really creating a new world. And this world is not as obvious yet, although it's getting a more firm structure than it had before. Let's say in the year Y2K, right? When everyone expected something to happen and it didn't. And they said, well, not much happened. Well, in the world of matter, many things happen, and the progression of technology was very advanced. From 2000 onward, we were like progressing like in a parable, right? Really fast, super fast, almost exponentially. And also the rise of artificial intelligence was immense. And we thought, well, nothing happened in that single moment. It was very similar with 2012. Nothing apparently happened, but a lot happened. And 2021 is one of those timelines as well. That's why a lot of people, I think, they're saying now that 2021 will be a different year than 2020, which was difficult and stubborn and a lot of challenges experienced for many people. But let me again inform you, Spirit does not see these things as numerologically. So I also talked about that. It's more about the cycles. And 2021 just brings in a new cycle. And that's why, always one step ahead of before the tipping point of that spiral beginning again, because the cycle is only complete when a specific spiral unwinds itself within that cycle. So that last tipping point of 2020 is about finishing, wrapping this cycle up. And 2021 does begin a new cycle, like many people have been probably wondering about. and asking astrology or divination and all of that. I don't use anything like that because Spirit tells me directly. I've always been receiving this way. So 2021 was also, as you know, witnessed from the darker perspective as having an agenda. We all know Agenda 20, Agenda 21, and then Agenda 30 in the year to 2030. And there's a lot that, you know, the dark also knows. But their calculations come with specific malfunctions. That's what Spirit tells me, is because they're not witnessing the entire perspective. They've lost the greater sight. They've lost the greater vision. Their vision is no longer with Spirit. Hence, they don't see all the data. Hence, the path of the light, of illumined light, has always been an advantage. It's been advantageous in a way. Although in the world of matter, it didn't seem that way all the time, right? We didn't perceive that. And because the waging war has been so intense, especially at the densest aspects of our planet, where mostly those of us who are light beings on missions here choose to incarnate, because why would we incarnate on places that are already uplifted and full of light? We choose levels of greatest density. Some of us even choose the most harshest conditions on the planet. Also, because at those points, the dark is still waging its war. So we feel many times being in that war zone, and it's also kept us from being fully in our states, which often left us feeling deprived of just simple joys of life, of enjoying life, being with simple things, having love relationships, things like that. We felt like our life is just a bunch of work, and we've often complained and felt mistreated in so many ways, and we thought, well, the great Father, divine, right, what are you doing to us? And yet this path has been much more than that. There was a lot of distraction specifically placed. It was basically, it's like imprinted, it was like encoded in the plan of the dark to keep us distracted. So as you know, a lot of toys keep appearing every day, always something new being made up. And it's like pulling our intention and our focus. And when we lose the focus being with Spirit, we feel that sense of dropping down in frequency and vibration and our understanding. So Spirit has been painting a bigger picture of life through this message for me today, and for all those of you who wish to receive that message. It's like, you know, when you have that trigger in the outside world, when certain things are no longer the norm, like just breathing air freely, you know, without the mask, or just socializing in a regular way, you stop putting focus on those things. Like for me, it was natural. I already lived that way because I was already preparing, because my mission is great in that scope. You know, I was meant to guide others into that state of consciousness and embodiment. But imagine like people then knowing all these things in their life, then all of a sudden these things are no longer a luxury for them, just like, you know, a choice. Many of these things just drop away. It's almost like if you go from a state of being free to complete imprisonment. And you know, many stories of great beings who went into such situations with their soul agreement, consciously, intentionally, to pull out aspects into the collective pool of the human soul that would help the human soul to liberate each step, each time even more. You know, people like Nelson Mandela and many other stories like that. So they chose to be in a state that appears to be not free and develop, let's say, total freedom within those encasing kind of experiences. So what Spirit told me today through this message is that a lot of us, especially light beings, we at this time, because we knew what it's going to be about, not necessarily how it will play out, but we knew it's going to be drastic. So we've taken upon this sacrifice that we would get ourselves into very tricky, difficult life situations, because we knew how to work with Spirit, because eventually we'd know how to get out of those situations. And through that, we would pave the way, we'd put the seed in the collective of the human experience, how to do that when they're ready, when their time comes, when they're ready to hop on that cycle. But we are already doing it. And Spirit stressed that what we're doing now, what we're doing next, is the dream that it was always there, it was always alive. You know, I have a certain vision that I'm not yet living in the outside physical world. And some of it feels like even too high of an ideal to be ever lived in matter as we know it now, in the 3D, with the gifts, people, tools that we have. Like, you know, let's say I live in a remote area. I don't meet people. I can't just have teachings here, like people coming here on the top of the mountain, right? Like in the ancient days, like they would be gathering on top of a mount. And specific things we're dreaming are already part of our new world, and hence the confusion comes within our human mind. We can't fully comprehend that. So Spirit shared this message to encourage us into becoming aware who we truly are as these new dreamers. So I won't go deeper into that. The message is out there on Patreon. I also want to share another message about how now I was sitting with my group today, and they were just showing me how more and more of our life force, what we are as an encoding of as beings, is coming and is penetrating the earth realm. So when I tell you I get to experience these winds, and it feels amazingly profound, amazingly, really, truly, like I'm flying. I mean, I can't get that higher up because then I can lose my embodiment, just like jumping off the cliff, not necessarily the way to go. But it's that feeling, that elevated state. And when I'm in that state, it feels like I'm really riding the wave. So this is also something I talked about on Patreon, this flow state and how to cultivate it, because it's one of the most important things, because it's all basically tied in together, in the dream. So look at my life, my reality. I've been sharing every single bit of it. I've been not hiding one thing. What this does is, first, right, it creates a ripple effect, because people are aware, look, that person is also, let's say, in this trouble, in this situation. They're homeless. They're going from one extreme to the other. But look at them. This, even in this mess, they've managed to get themselves into their I am pillar again. They did this work. They moved beyond the transgressions of the dark. They totally mastered over the dark. And they're getting their new life, dreaming about it now. And it's not perhaps necessarily a manifest reality as we speak, but it's all going again as a depository into this repository of knowing, of pure illumined seeds that we're dropping into the collective pool. And this is how reality of spirit works, because on earth, as you know, we know ourselves too much as individuals, and in that state we're often clueless and we forget about the bigger picture of life. So in the higher state of spirit, we have to elevate ourselves most of the time above our bodies to witness this, what we're actually experiencing, because it gives us the proper boost to keep on going and to see what spirit actually desires of us, and that it's not torturing us. It's not, no one is pushing us into these specific conditions and harsh situations, that we're remembering that we are the ones who volunteered to get ourselves in specific messes. So I was shown, for my own example, I did not have to choose the harder road, but I had. I've chosen to move 5 times and to almost go through a disciplinary path in which specific things happen, and I had to endure the kind of trials and meet the kind of energies that I never would if I stayed in the reality as it was, and I was in my little elven heaven and kingdom. And now, only like, let's say a month after the most difficult part of these challenges, I'm realizing that I'm more of a compassionate human than I ever was before. But not only that, I'm managing to pull myself out of the situations that I would never figure out with the mind. The mind's capacity is limited, and you can't often figure things out, like, how would I get this? How would I get money for this? How would I move in this way? I don't know, you have a desire to move cross country or somewhere else, and you can't figure it out how this would even work. And in this kind of world, this reality we live in now, because that is already the domain of spirit. It's how spirit does this pure magic through us. And when I say spirit, I mean the spirit of creation, the divine mother, the feminine aspect of life, the Holy Spirit, which is the pure essence of life. It's the part that we know as embodiment. It's being in these bodies. It's bringing spirit and fluctuating it into matter. And so moving beyond all these distractions and what we know to be pulling our attention, and things that are telling us, no, it's just a dream, you're just imagining, you're just a bunch of hippies and new age gurus and this and that. It's nothing new agey, spirit is saying. This is simply the state of art when you know spirit. Like the Ascended Masters have been teaching for eons of time, but now it's being brought to a greater sphere of beings. There's a collective group of souls who've been, let's say, specifically old souls who've been on earth since the beginning. I'm not even going to say Lemurian times, because it goes way back, even before that. These beings have been off planetary before and having lifetime experiences on other planets. They just migrated here with the collective of the desire of the way human soul was meant to develop. And during those, as you know, movements and relocations, a lot of these relocations were not just done on the level of the soul that wanted to grow and expand and eventually ready itself for ascension and the plan for illumined ascension, illumined union. There was also several movements through different planetary stations, and one of these we know as the planet Saturn. A lot of people say this is heavy, and we've been having these Saturn difficulties. So when I had my Sade Sati now, like for 3 years, this is like a difficult period. It doesn't end. Maybe it gets a little looser, but it's still felt. So Sade Sati, I'm not really a Vedic astrologer. I just know it to be Saturn on the moon, on your natal moon. And so it's very difficult, and people would say, well, the planet sucks. It's just a great teacher. And we've been describing Saturn as the teacher through life and circumstance and oppression and challenges. But when you look at the nature of a deity as the planet itself does not have the kind of capacity to influence a being, like a divine intelligence that we would say we are, right? As human soul. What is behind the whole Saturn thing is like with different other planets, because they were all colonized in a way, is, you know how the Luciferians now on the planet, they worship the Saturn as they reverse the star, the pentagram, and a lot of their work, the rituals they're performing is through Saturn and its placements and alignments, and often with other planetary stations as well. So there was a colonization of those beings, and we know again how colonization took place from the very prism of life, and how the great Orion was, that constellation was, right, an experiment of polarity, and at the same time there was the seed of illumined union, which carried itself out through many different stations of planetary embodiments and beings experiencing themselves as souls on those stations of life. So basically Saturn still has the residual of a lot of that control, like you would see it colonized by Luciferian energetics and these principles governing it. So we often see it as like many people now talking about the Father, right, as our creator. And a lot of the hoaxing has been done to kind of pull souls into the narrative of the creator, but not our true God creator, the original creator. So there's been kind of like strings pulled. So we would align ourselves with specific planetary alignments, and behind those neutral, because each planet is just neutral, right? These neutral deities, these aspects of life that provide life to expand and evolve through them, and then we get to decide how that life would be as consciousness embodiers. So it's kind of like a lot of agenda and intention to pull us and align us with these planetary aspects. So even myself, I've stopped, like Spirit has guided me to stop even looking at astrology and dates and alignments. Even the full and empty moon, Spirit has been telling me, just don't think about it anymore. It's been really all just this blank slate and direct Spirit connection since my latest journey. And Spirit does not want me to pull my attention anywhere and to leave it anywhere as an imprint. And since then, I've been getting clearer and clearer and just invoking the presence of the cosmic Christ, my beautiful spirit presence, Aurea, the great divine mother of life, the holy Elohim, and of course my mission team, Aureus. So these are my top 5, or just say the direct translation of the narrative of purest, impeccable, illumined design for life. And I'm just mentioning the Saturn thing. There's a lot more, and astrology, and a lot of people doing these spells or aligning themselves into specific planetary alignments and what they mean. If you're giving your consciousness there and you're saying, wow, this is a difficult alignment, there's this cross or this forming, it's not always so. But in many cases, you're actually just hooking your energy there, and a lot of your energy is being pulled there. So I don't know why the current of today's conversation is going to this direction, but Spirit obviously has a plan with this message. What it wants us to be aware of, that we are now ready to have that direct Spirit communication, that direct pure knowing. We don't need our life force to be kind of filtered through these other streams of life that don't always have our best intention in mind, or they don't hold the best intention for us. but the Spirit Mother does. And the true original Father, Creator, does. But there was a lot of representatives of the Father, with the bearded man. And we've often said, yeah, that's also Saturn, right? The cruel teacher. The kind of like the fake guru in a way, the bearded guru. And because of these alignments, and because we've been ascribing to them for so long, and in a way we've been aligning with them, our society ended up being in this specific way. So as you know, there's different aspects and regions on the planet that align more with one type of narrative than the other. Hence, we have a more diverse cultural upbringings and the way this affects the nature of consciousness, because of course the culture reasons also affect the consciousness and vice versa. But the moment when you start tapping into the nature of the Christ, like this pure immaculate state of that love, and getting into the flow that the Divine Trinity provides, which is aligning yourself with the knowing that you are both the Father, the Mother, and the child, and that all that is of Spirit already lives within you. And this is what makes you stop, look for things that hook into things into the outside reality. And remember, the moment, always when you're trying to hook into the outside reality in a specific way, things of that reality or behind the scenes of that apparent reality will also be trying to hooking you into something as well. And we're still unaware in most cases how deeply we are hooked. But with this crumbling away of the old system, which we're watching now, we're witnessing it, there's a lot of people grasping firmly. Like, let's say you have a cruel ruler, right? But you're still used to them ruling, and they have a specific structure and system which apparently works. And you would rather have this cruel ruler to stay than for you to make a change and to ask for this intervention and change, because it's too insecure. You don't know what will come out of it. And that's what I did with my move. I jumped out of this dark, terrible place that I couldn't stay in any longer. And I jumped. I took the leap. And not knowingly, it will take me 5 times and 5 tries for me to end up here again. Still a transition period, but I'm back in the zone. I'm back in myself. I've managed to do the alignment yet again. What I'm wanting to say is I've demonstrated with my own life example that there is no way of getting lost when you're with Spirit. That you can jump into any darkness, you can jump into density, and the Spirit is the force, the pure fire that gets you out. Every time. When you have Spirit backing you up, when you are and walk with Spirit, that's what the great masters have already been talking about. You are always safe. And you're protected. It's not a hooey. It's not a bunch of new age nonsense because you're just expecting it to happen. Yes, you have to do the work. And spirit work is intense. You have to align your body constantly. You have to be aware of the things that Spirit asks of you because it's always for your benefit. Spirit Mother loves you so much. The Mother only wants you to thrive and prosper and be her extension of love. While the darkness always has an agenda with you. And I get it. The reason why so many people now, so many beings are still choosing the dark path, because the dark now is still governing. It's like hooking into many aspects of our planet. And it's always rewarding those who are working on the behalf of the darkness. So with much more monetary reward and gain and serving the dark, what? Right? You're more prosperous, supposedly. But your soul keeps being sold out until eventually, there's levels of this darkness. Your soul totally sells out. And hence the term selling your soul to the devil. And devil just representing the ignorance of the non-godly state of being and non-recognition of who we are, birthed through the spirit of creation, the spirit of life. So in the beautiful transcription, the message about us being these new dreamers, dreaming up a new reality, it's so obviously stated that what we're perhaps not yet witnessing as manifest now is not meaning that it's not meant to be. It's just depositing itself as filaments of light that go onto each thought, not unnoticed, not in vain. It's there. And it's a part of your collective dream building, and you're tapping into the dream of Spirit. We dream through her and she dreams through us. And everything that's of the higher refined nature and design, like it's through beloved. It's through love. Love as that ultimate gateway is a part of that gateway into this new world that we're already co-creating. So each time you would find yourself in this world and able to fully manifest yourself as you envision yourself, the way you want to be in the world. Don't get frustrated and hit a wall, right? Be having that feeling like you're hitting a wall. But jump within, access the vertical, and work with the dreamscape, the dream realm, the infinite creativity, because that's your ultimate gift of life. And stir up the passion, the creative juices being stirred up in our loins, literally. And they're helping our physicality to align more and more with spirit. And spirit is that infinite flow. So I talked about this on Patreon, the state of flow, and why it's so important for us to be aligned with that at this time. Because the moment when we acknowledge ourselves as these new dreamers, we're stepping into a new role now. The old reality work has been complete. Remember, I've stepped into this beautiful portal space, and a few months ago I was told, it's done. You have to leave this work. It's no longer needed. I'm like, what am I going to do now? I was so lost for probably about a month. I thought I have no more purpose on this planet, so I'm just being kept here against my will. And there's so many thoughts, that have been running through my mind and my heart. But just giving it time, like I did, and giving up. Sometimes you have to literally give up. And it's not giving up, it's literally giving in. And then spirit always takes over. And that's the beauty of the sweetness of surrender. But not surrender that's mentally done. Like total surrender. Your body has to be like, enough. Stop trying so hard. I've had it. Show me the new way. Show me the way of you, spirit. And it does. But you always have to invoke the purity of spirit. Because the moment when you say spirits, plural, spirit only has one S. Spirit does not have two S's, okay? Spirits, plural, are different spirits. It's not the spirit. And it's often relating to the world of form in unseen realms that we can't see, and yet they have the power to see us and govern us and manipulate us if we don't work with our will consciously. Also, something else I want to say is that you have to be aware light beings function as a one being. We might have individual missions, but we function as a one unit, which means we don't, at the level of spirit, when you serve spirit, you don't have your free will. So spirit was telling me recently how this concept, especially becoming in New Age very popular, how there's free will on our planet Earth and this and that, but the free will is only given to the lower worlds of creation in order for there to be experience so the soul can grow. At the level of ascension, the free will is like you bypass that realm. All great beings have a unified divine will. So we often feel like, do we even have a choice with this? And you feel like you're being pushed somewhere and you have none of your own saying, and it's true. But there is a greater wisdom to it, and the more you allow that and you stop resisting it, the greater your wisdom will become. The more illumined you will be in your body, the more transparent everything will become. Everything will be clear and smoothly you're going to run through life. It doesn't have to be that hard, but we often make it so because we don't have that broader picture. We lack the higher perspective. And this is kind of my gift to the world, offering these higher perspectives and visions of life. There are several I've been sharing throughout the years. At any time, if you feel called, that's probably one of the easiest access to, more easily accessed, right? As in terms of energetic exchange, are my download files. So you can find them on my webpage called Serapina Light under downloads. There's these transcriptions of different channelings I've been doing, and also the segment called My Books. And there's audio books, mini audio books with the greater teachings of the Elohim and how life in creation functions and different things of that nature that open you up to a higher vista of life. So if in any time you're interested, my Patreon work is now resumed. It's back on track. It's called Illumined Ascension. I would really appreciate if you feel called at any time to check the content out, because I really work hard for it, especially now doing it with my phone. So I have to work harder than before when I had just, my computer and internet and all worked specifically in those terms. But I'm grateful that spirit always shows me a way, even sometimes my mind can't see through it. And that there's always something, like a sparkle, if I just allow it to happen. And this is how spirit guides us more and more into weaving this web of the new life. And we're not to get discouraged and think, well, why do some people manifest these lives for themselves and we don't seem to get? Why would we think otherwise? Why would we think that we're already not manifesting our highest life in this moment? Why are we questioning that? Because whatever it is in our life is already our highest potential. It's just we can't compare our stories. That's just a story. You don't know why someone is creating something and why you're chosen to create something else, right? So having that vision, seeing with the eye, singular, of spirit all the time, is helping us to stay with that alignment at all times. So anyway, I just wanted to share this briefly. I also will upload the Aurea Speaks message, the full content version of the channel message about the bigger picture, what we came here to do, and the stirring up of Spirit's life force and this change in the multiverse and what it's all about. And in the meantime, before I come up here again, I want to thank all of you for watching, especially those of you who support my work in exchange as well. You don't just watch, but you support me. Thank you so much. It means really, you don't know how much at these auspicious times. You can always visit my webpage if you find services or whatever. I'm now back on track with my work and I'm excited. I've missed it so very much, but here I am now. So I'm going to go record and enjoy this mountain valley with you, for you. And until next time, as always, with so much love, wisdom, and power. Enjoy. Bye for now.